What if the biggest shortage of the next decade isn't oil? It isn't food, and it isn't water. What if it's electricity? Because right now, behind the scenes, the world is consuming power faster than experts ever predicted. And the technologies supposed to build the future are making the problem much worse. The scary part? Most people have no idea it's even happening. Every morning, billions of people wake up and expect one thing to work: electricity. The lights turn on, the coffee machine starts brewing, phones charge, traffic lights operate, hospitals run, factories produce goods, and the internet exists. Electricity is so reliable that most people never even think about it until it's gone. And lately, that has been happening much more often. Not everywhere, not all at once, but enough to make energy experts nervous. Because a surprising reality is emerging. The world's appetite for electricity is exploding, and power grids are struggling to keep up. For decades, electricity demand grew steadily, predictably. Governments planned for it, utilities planned for it, energy companies planned for it. Then something changed. Demand started accelerating, and not by a little, by a lot. Many forecasts assumed electricity consumption would grow slowly, but instead, entire industries suddenly began demanding enormous amounts of power. And the biggest culprit wasn't electric cars, it wasn't air conditioning, and it wasn't cryptocurrency. It was something either nobody or everybody expected: artificial intelligence. Every time someone asks an AI a question, a server somewhere works to answer it. That sounds harmless, but now imagine hundreds of millions of people doing that every day, then billions, then businesses automating entire departments, and then governments, and then schools, and then the healthcare systems. Suddenly, the demand becomes enormous. Modern AI doesn't live in your phone, it lives inside giant data centers. And these facilities consume a staggering amount of electricity. Some new AI data centers are expected to use as much power as entire cities. Not neighborhoods, cities. Imagine your house. Now, imagine 500 houses. That's roughly the amount of electricity some future AI facilities may require, and they're being built everywhere. Tech companies are in a race to build bigger AI systems, more powerful models, more computing capacity, more servers, more data centers. The winner could dominate a $1 trillion industry. So nobody wants to slow down. And that creates a problem because building data centers is easy compared to building power plants. And a data center can be completed relatively quickly. A power plant often takes years, sometimes decades, which means electricity demand is growing faster than electricity supply. And that gap keeps widening. Now let's talk about electric vehicles because they're adding another layer to the problem. For over a century, cars consumed gasoline. Now governments around the world want millions of drivers switching to electricity. And that sounds environmentally friendly, but it creates a massive new burden. Every electric vehicle becomes another device connected to the grid. And there aren't just millions coming, there are hundreds of millions. Imagine if every gas station suddenly plugged into the electrical grid. That's essentially what's happening. Except it's occurring at homes, offices, parking garages, apartment complexes, and highways, all at once. Here's another piece of the puzzle, one that receives far less attention: air conditioning. As temperatures rise, more people need cooling, especially in developing countries. Hundreds of millions of families are buying their first air conditioners, and that's understandable. Nobody wants to sleep in dangerous heat, but air conditioners consume a tremendous amount of power, especially during heat waves, and that's exactly when grids are already under pressure. Ironically, the hotter the world gets, the more electricity we need, which can make the problem worse. Think about this. Every second, somebody buys an air conditioner, somebody plugs in an electric car, somebody opens an AI application. None of these actions seem significant, but together, they're reshaping global energy demand. And here's the real problem. Electricity doesn't magically appear. It moves through infrastructure: power plants, transformers, transmission lines, substations, equipment that often took decades to build. And much of it is old, very old. In some countries, portions of the grid are over 50 years old. They were designed for a completely different world. A world before AI, before mass electrification, before millions of charging vehicles, and before giant cloud computing networks. The grid was built for yesterday, not tomorrow. At this point, you might be thinking, why not just build more power plants? And that's a good question. The answer is complicated because every energy source comes with challenges. Coal is controversial. Natural gas faces environmental concerns. Hydroelectric projects require specific geography. Solar and wind depend on weather. Nuclear is expensive and slow to build. Then there are permits, environmental reviews, political battles, local opposition, funding issues, labor shortages, supply chain problems. A power plant can take years before producing a single watt. Meanwhile, electricity demand just keeps climbing every day. Now, here's the twist that nobody talks about. The shortage might not be electricity itself. It might be the materials needed to deliver it. Copper, transformers, transmission equipment, industrial components, the boring stuff. The stuff most people never think about. Without it, electricity can't reach homes and businesses, and many of these supplies are becoming harder to obtain. Copper demand alone is expected to surge because everything electrical needs it. Cars, solar panels, wind turbines, data centers, power lines, batteries, almost everything. The world wants electrification, but electrification requires enormous amounts of physical infrastructure, and infrastructure takes time. Imagine ordering a pizza, then finding out the restaurant has no dough, no cheese, no ovens. That's what some energy projects are experiencing. They have the plans, but not the equipment. Around the world, governments are beginning to sound alarms. Utilities are warning about future capacity shortages. Grid operators are delaying new industrial connections. Some companies are discovering something shocking. They have enough money to build facilities, but they can't get enough electricity. And imagine spending billions on a new factory only to be told, we can't connect you to the grid for the next 5 years. That is already happening in some places, and it's becoming more common. Electricity is quietly becoming a strategic resource, just like oil was in the 20th century. Now things get interesting, because if electricity becomes scarce, who gets priority? Homes? Factories, data centers, electric vehicles, hospitals, military installations? Everyone wants more power, but supply isn't unlimited, at least not immediately, and difficult choices may be coming. Imagine a future where a data center wants enough electricity to power hundreds of thousands of homes. Who's going to be getting it? That's not even a science fiction question anymore. It's becoming a real-world debate. This is one reason nuclear energy is making a comeback. For years, many countries moved away from nuclear power. Now some are reconsidering. And why? Because nuclear provides huge amounts of reliable electricity, day and night, rain or shine, without requiring constant fuel deliveries like some alternatives. Even major technology companies are showing renewed interest, because AI requires reliable power around the clock, not just when the wind blows, not just when the sun shines. And now suddenly nuclear is looking very attractive. The biggest issue isn't whether solutions exist. They do. There's solar, there's wind, nuclear, energy storage, grid upgrades, advanced transmission systems. The problem is timing. Demand is increasing now. Infrastructure takes years, sometimes decades, and the clock is ticking. Every new AI model, every electric vehicle, every heat wave, every new factory adds pressure to the system. The world isn't running out of electricity today, but demand is growing faster than many expected. And that's creating a race between consumption and construction. Look down at a city at night. Every light tells a story. An apartment, a hospital, a business, a family, a computer, a server, a charging vehicle, all connected by the same invisible network. A network most people never even think about. For over a century, electricity quietly became the foundation of modern civilization. We built everything on top of it. The internet, healthcare, transportation, manufacturing, communication. Almost every aspect of modern life depends on constant flow of power. And now, for the first time in decades, demand is beginning to outpace expectations. Not because the world is failing, but because humanity is electrifying everything all at once. The future needs more electricity, far more than anyone predicted. The question isn't whether we can produce it. The question is whether we can build the infrastructure fast enough. Because the next great global competition may not be for oil, or land, or even data. It may be for the thing that powers all of them, electricity. And the race has already begun.